The people I've talked to,
Yeah.
Drew Petzing does really well in a room with people. Like, that's why Kyler Murray likes him. That's why Jonathan Gannon hired him. Drew Petzing's not just some embarrassment. Now, is he everybody's cup of tea in Arizona? No. Have we been critical of their passing game? Absolutely. But, like, he just checks a lot of boxes for the Bears. Are the Cardinals poised to lose their offensive coordinator, Bo Brock? Drew Petzing concluded today, albeit a Zoom call, with the Chicago Bears to become the next head coach of the Monsters of the Midway. And our guy Adam Hogue of CHGO, he dropped a nugget that neither of us were aware of. So if you're wondering, how does Drew Petzing and his 11th ranked offense fit with the Chicago Bears? How about this? Hogue, our guy, connecting some dots on Petzing, who, of course, is interviewing for the Bears job. He and Ben Johnson coached together at Boston College, quote, shortly after Ryan Poles played there. That is Drew Petzing. So Ben Johnson, of course, is going to be interviewing for the Bears job. Who isn't? Bo, are you interviewing for the Bears job?
I think I did get a link for a Zoom meeting in my email. I do believe so. It could be an interview with the Bears. I'm not sure. But Petzing and Johnson and Petzing.
Feels like Ryan Poles is going through his like yearbooks at Boston College being like, this guy went here at this time, and it's nuts.
He's got the old Sharpie out and he's circling people in his yearbook like, could be my next head coach. I don't know. He's like, it looks like Drew Petzing told me to stay cool, and guess what? I'm going to hit him up. Drew Petzing going up against Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel. I think, there's tiers and levels to this. Like, hottest coordinator in the NFL. Everybody wants a piece of Ben Johnson. He's going to command, there was reports out last offseason he wanted up to $15 million of the year. Are the Bears going to, reach that number? And are they going to be able to keep, the Raiders and the Jags away from them, Patriots? And then you got, Vrabel, who's a NFL coach of the year at one point with the Tennessee Titans. A lot of people believe a real leader of men, the experience. So, I think that, obviously those guys have the edge, but I don't know, Johnny. I mean, you seem to think like if things get weird, and when we're looking at, kind of one of the weirdest franchise organizations going in the NFL for so many decades run by the McCaskies, like the Bears could be somehow work their way into this.
Yeah. If you remember, my argument the other day was that the Bears have their self-esteem is not great as a franchise, and they are in the past looking for, I'm just being real here, McCaskey, Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren. That press conference that they put on the other day was the biggest clown show that you're going to see in an NFL offseason, save for what happened with Jacksonville and Shad Khan and Trent Baalke. Like the Bears embarrassed themselves the other day. And if that's an indication of how they operate and carry themselves, I think two things are true. I think it's safe to assume, like, will candidates with options like Vrabel and Johnson be turned off by that? I think there's a possibility. And then, like, there's always a possibility. Like, why didn't Jim Harbaugh get an interview with last year? Why didn't they move off of Eberflus? Because Kevin Warren suspended Jim Harbaugh out of the Big Ten and didn't want Jim Harbaugh coming to the Bears and forcing him out. The same thing can be said if they hire a non-traditional puppet coach and they get a Ben Johnson or a Vrabel who has power and options. Vrabel forced out a GM in Tennessee. Is that bad news for Ryan Poles? And then you see the connecting the dots today with Drew Petzing, and it's like, couldn't you see the Bears? I mean, it's the equivalent of Eberflus offensively. The Colts defensively, the year that the Bears hired him, they were fine. They were solid, right? Wasn't on anybody's hottest coaching candidates. That hiring came out of left field. I think this is a very safe selection, and I think you and I chatted about this off air. If it gets to a second interview, look out. If Drew Petzing is asked to come back, and I know there's some kind of like it's not faux, there's some Twitter account with like 3,000 followers with a Bears scoop saying that Petzing didn't have a good interview. It's like, okay, Joel Blow with your sources, like maybe that's true. I'm going to lend itself to believe, like, the people I've talked to, Drew Petzing does really well in a room with people. Like, that's why Kyler Murray likes him. That's why Jonathan Gannon hired him. Drew Petzing's not just some embarrassment. Now, is he everybody's cup of tea in Arizona? No. Have we been critical of their passing game? Absolutely. But, like, he just checks a lot of boxes for the Bears. He'll protect Caleb Williams. He'll run a traditional offense. He'll run an offense that has the emphasis on running the football, developing him, limiting his turnovers. Now, there's a ceiling with that, and the Cardinals, I believe, have reached it. But Chicago, man, it's like they are so chaotic. And Drew Petzing can just come in and stabilize that. Can he lead a 53-man locker room? That's going to be left up to the brass in Chicago.
Baharo is seeing right through it. You were doing this at the beginning of the week too. Like you out there stumping for Drew Petzing as a head coaching candidate.
I don't think that's fair to put that on me. We saw John Middlecoff say the same thing. Kyle Brandt saying the same thing.
And look, I'm going to let you go and do it. And that's all I'll say about it. Also, I'll say, like, thank you to everybody that tagged me on the post from the guy that was reporting his little insight.
The guy from a Pizza Hut buffet.
This scoop. Yep. And like, if you just read it, it just comes off as what people, especially not knowing the candidate, knowing enough about the candidates, and then to kind of hatch what they feel like the Bears got away from these interviews. Like that's what they would say. Like they said of Vrabel, like fantastic interview, solid plan what the team needs in order to succeed long-term. He plans to bring in high-level assistants. Like that's what you would just assume would come out of a Vrabel thing. And it's like, oh, this Cardinals offensive coordinator. Oh, it was a bad interview. It was not clear or structured. You could cross him off. And it's like, you know, they had the same thing on the DC from the Dolphins saying solid overall interview. Did not have the best plan regarding Caleb's
It's the people the Bear fans don't want to hire.
Yeah,
that's who they're putting it out.
Yeah, it's all, you know, it's all concocted, and it doesn't seem like it comes from any reality, any truth.
It's Chat GPT, right?
Exactly. That's what that is.
Breakdown. Ben Johnson was football Jesus. His interview was unbelievable. They loved it over Zoom for 45 minutes.
They were very impressed with his knowledge of the offensive side of the football.
Ben Johnson proposed to Caleb Williams. It was emotional. We all saw it. It's going to happen. And Drew Petzing, he couldn't even get his Wi-Fi to work. They had to disconnect midway through. He had to use a rotary phone. These people don't know anything. Can we stop this?
No, I you know, you click on the account, it's like, oh, nobody that I follow that covers this team and at a very high level follow this guy. I think I can kind of maybe just, I'll take this with the smallest grain of salt.
Again, like the Bears are interviewing so many people, Petzing's included amongst it, but he has ties to Ryan Poles now via our guy Adam Hogue at CHGO. And I do agree with you that he is amongst a lesser tier than the perceived like top guys. But I think my common like denominator is like, are the top guys choosing the Chicago Bears? Is the Bears job a good job in that division? And does Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, do they have the gusto to go toe to toe every day with like a Mike Vrabel? Let's say Ben Johnson ends up with Jaguars, right? Ends up with the Patriots. And it's like Vrabel's like, yeah, I'm interested, but you know what? You guys are soft. And he gets in somebody's face. It's like maybe they're like, hey, we don't want to deal with that. But you know who'd probably be pretty easy to deal with? Drew Petzing.
Yeah, I mean, even though like they would get dressed down potentially by, you know, a Vrabel or Ben Johnson, who seems to be commanding a lot, even for his first job. And coordinators are often like, you know, hit and miss. Even like some of the most well-respected play callers on either side of the football go and fail as head coaches.
Right.
You know, Ben Johnson still has a lot to prove, even though he's done so much from the coordinator position. But I think just to survive, as far as the GM, the team president, they have to hit on this decision. Because like you can take, you know, maybe at odds with your new head coach in the future, but just in order to save a little bit of face after the last couple disastrous years, with everything that you've done to put yourself what you felt like was in a position to be successful and completely come out and fall on your face. Like if they don't get this head coaching job, like they're a lame duck GM and they're a lame duck president potentially. So I think they understand the importance of getting it right. And if they just, go back to the definition of insanity and go about it the same way that they'd done the previous couple times, just as an organization. I know Poles he didn't hire Eberflus, right? It was the previous GM, but still, you got to get it right. And I think that there's an emphasis to do that. And I can, even though they are who they are, I can see this in a wacky way that Drew Petzing gets his way into it. But I still think that there's a very real chance that Petzing is back as Cardinals offensive coordinator next season.
Do you think Gannon really has a contingency plan if he were to lose Drew Petzing?
Told me he did. He told me in the press conference.
Drew Terrell, we had heard in the past, is probably the heir apparent. Do you think that still carries weight? Or do you think they would be posed to go external?
I mean, it becomes like the debate about how it was felt like internally versus how it was perceived from the fan base. You look at where the Cardinals struggled in the wide receiver room, didn't reach expectations to the fan base's standards, but how is Drew Terrell perceived? Does he continue to have the confidence that he did last offseason, which there was a ton? Like, as you had told me, like, Drew Terrell was poised to be the in-house successor to Drew Petzing when he inevitably got a job.
Yeah.
So I think that you just have to kind of sift through it. And I think Drew Terrell still has the confidence if he's going to, stick with the organization to continue to be the guy that they thought he can be as a future offensive coordinator in this league.
I also think it bodes well for the Cardinals offensive coaching staff that, Petzing's getting interviews and Gannon is complimentary of the job that he's done. Like, probably
Gannon told me, like, I asked him that in the press conference. I'm not here having, solo combos with the Cardinals head coach.
What do you know?
Yeah. What do I know? I know nothing more than any of you guys. But, when Drew Petzing's name came out and the reports were that he was going to interview with the Bears coaching job, I said, at what point do you start thinking of successors? And he's like, as soon as I hire these guys, I'm starting to thinking about successors. He's always on his mind as far as, having a pivot any direction, roster wise, coaching staff wise, training staff wise. And
it's always been his preference to hire or promote from within when it warrants it, right? Cardinals for a long time have always, operated. Let's just get externals and let's rotate. And Gannon wants to reward people for their work. And Drew Terrell, I don't know if we've seen what Drew Terrell can really do until he's able to actually call plays.